We're going to hear from another candidate, Lower House, in a seat that I personally find very interesting. It's the seat of Goldstein. It's where Tim Wilson is currently the sitting member, and one that I think it would be a lot of fun to give them a bit of a fright in. And the job of doing that falls to a former stockbroker and semi-retired man who was chosen to, I don't know, this is meant to be the retirement, the golden years of your life, and he's chosen instead to get into the mud fight. I was going to say bloodbath, that might be a bit rough. The mud fight that is politics. Huge respect, and he's chosen to do that for a party where there is by no means any guarantee that he will be successful, but he's going to get in there and get into that fight and help to move the needle in whatever way he can. Would you please welcome David Segal, our candidate for Goldstein.
Hi, thanks for the introduction. And basically, I'm still wondering how it did happen that I am a candidate here. Basically, what's happened, I've never even been a member of a political party my whole life. I've never been a volunteer. I've never considered being a candidate. But with two years of lockdowns and almost lockdowns, strange things happen. Those dreaded words, just 2 weeks to flatten the curve, still haunt me. Anyway, after you've watched every Netflix series, finished a couple of 10,000 piece jigsaw puzzles and a whole killer Sudoku book, I decided to watch a bit of TV. So during the day I would watch Fox, or during the night I'd watch Sky After Dark. And if you don't go nuts watching those shows, you're not human. Because basically, I was getting angry all the time. What's happening in COVID, US elections, border closures, critical race theory, climate change. So I was a person who, in relation to what was happening in Australian politics, I did a lot of whinging and moaning. And what was worse, my wife did a lot of whinging and moaning about my whinging and moaning. So Andrews was my main source of anger, with a world record lockdown. But when the Liberals signed up for net zero and refused to remove the ban on nuclear energy, I just about had enough. Then in my many hours of watching, I happened to watch an interview between Rowan Dean and John Ruddock, who's our Senate candidate in Sydney, and a person who I've always respected for his intellect and good judgment. And so when he said he was moving to the Liberal Democrats, a person who'd been Liberal through and through, I felt it was time to me to look into the party. So I Googled Liberal Democrats and came up with something that really surprised me, something where I felt I actually belonged, where I had an affinity with their policies. They're a party that works on 4 or 5 basic principles: small government, small taxes, individual choice, individual freedoms. I knew from that they would have predictable and policies that would be consistent, unlike the major parties with each way elbow and flip-flop Morrison. The party's economic policies are fiscally conservative, its social policies are progressive. But the policy that I also found that the policy in relation to COVID management mirrored identically my thoughts on it. I found it crazy the way people were reacting, and I found the policies of the premiers in particular were extremely divisive. I love being involved with the party. It's a grassroots operation, and I sincerely believe over the next 2 to 3 election cycles we can become a major influence in the Australian political landscape. Now, about my electorate of Goldstein, I was really excited to stand in Goldstein, not only because I have a lot of friends and connections in this electorate, but I like the fact that the Climate 200 independent, if that's the right word, Zoe Daniel, was contesting the seat. And my passion has been energy policy and climate change. The fact that we are a party that has a policy that includes nuclear as part of the energy mix gives us a great leverage in putting forward practical energy solutions, no matter what views one has on the climate science. The failures of the major parties' energy policies have been highlighted in the last couple of days. For those who've read the papers or looked at the news, New South Wales is going to have 20% of their energy locked off in 2025. Basically, we've got absolutely no base power to replace it, base load power to replace it. So you're left with this situation where the major parties have got these great solutions to help them with their emissions, but absolutely no solution to keep the lights on. You don't need to be a genius to realise that in a relatively short time, the major parties' energy policies will lead to higher costs, more blackouts and energy rationing. In 2008, Obama stated that under his energy plan, electricity costs would by necessity skyrocket. High prices is not a problem of green energy, it's a feature. The reality is that if nuclear is not part of the energy mix, you're not serious about net zero. But if you do have nuclear as part of your energy mix, you don't even need net zero. So our energy policy is determined by market forces. The major parties' energy policy relies on market spin. Our policy relies on existing proven technologies. They are hoping and wishing that technologies will emerge. Our policies provide for affordable and reliable electricity. Theirs is anything but. The major parties have become an amorphous blob with virtually no difference in their major policies. When the best you can say about your energy policy is that Labor would be worse, you're really, really struggling. So whoever wins government, I see that there's really no opposition. The only real opposition will come if minor parties hold the balance and hold the government accountable. So it's important that you don't waste your vote by voting for a major party. Make your vote count, vote for Liberal Democrats.
Thank you so much.